Hello and welcome to this fun little project I've got here. Now, normally being the Adam Thomas music channel, I normally do stuff about like sort of music and guitars and stuff like that. This is a completely non-music related video, so if you're looking for a music one, then my next couple of videos will be music related, and obviously my previous videos were music-y, but this is just a little like side projects I've got going here. So what we're going to be doing is I have a late 2010 MacBook Air here, and those of you who are keen-eyed may have seen a little something wrong with it just here. It needs a bit of a repair and a bit of an upgrade. I'm returning it into sort of my own computer. And this video is actually going to be filmed over the course of a few days, as currently I only have a couple of things that have arrived so far for this. So I'm going to be doing bits and bobs. Now this is my fiance's old laptop, and she's upgraded to like a Dell computer now. She's got like a better laptop. And so I've got it here, and I just want to see if I can fix it. So other than the fact that it needs a bit of a clean, I'm going to do that right at the end. If I just tip it up a bit like this, you might notice that it's not closed all the way. And I can't close it all the way. And note, this isn't the problem of the hinge. Those of you who may have noticed, the body has actually warped. Because what's happened inside of here, if you can see that, hopefully you can, on camera, oh yeah, you can see it there, is the battery has expanded. It's swollen, it's puffy, some people like to say it's exploded. Now, I'm not going to turn this on at the moment, even though I do have the charger here. I can confirm that everything else actually still works on it. It's quite amazing. It even, for a long time, still held charge, although really, once we realised it was doing this, we didn't really put any charge into it. I think I made a backup of what's on here ages ago, but I'm doing a second backup. So, to begin with, and what we're doing in this first bit of the video is we're going to be removing the battery, seeing if we can flex the body back into shape and putting a replacement battery in that I've bought. Now, some people I've seen have said that, you know, when you take the battery out, the body starts to relax in. And that would normally be the case, I imagine, if this had only just happened. This laptop has been like this for, I think, about 2 years at this point. So I may actually have to try and manually sort of force this back into place. If this all goes horribly wrong, and I break it, then this video will never see the light of day. But if I do manage to fix it, then this is amazing. But I'm just going to preface this by saying, I am not any kind of proper engineer or technician, and if you choose to copy me, then that's on you, buddy. I don't claim that anything I'm about to do is good. I'm actually taking a lot of steps from things like iFixit, in which I've got their kit here, this is not sponsored, and other videos I've seen. So, as well as the puffy battery that we're going to be replacing, we're also going to be doing a couple other things. So this comes with a 60GB, it's like an mSATA SSD in there, and it's kind of like this proprietary socket they've got. And I'm not sure if this is just Apple being annoying proprietary Apple, or if it's, you know, because in 2010 these things weren't as common. I think the only SSDs you could really get at the time were probably just like normal, you know, SATA port ones, not like mSATA. So what I also have on order, which should be coming in the next couple of days, is an adapter to go to a like more modern mSATA. I've got an mSATA SSD, which can be a 500GB one ready to go in here. And so the goal of today is to get the battery new one working. Once I upgrade the SSD and everything else, is rather than using macOS on this, as it's kind of no longer supported and I don't like it anyway, I'm going to be putting Linux on it, specifically Ubuntu, which is the XFCE desktop environment put onto Ubuntu Linux. So, let's flip around and have a look inside. Right, now just before I do this, something I am going to do is I'm going to go touch a radiator. I just touched a radiator as I'm in a carpeted room. It's kind of difficult in like where I live to find non-carpeted bits and places that can easily film. What I've also got here is I have an anti-static wrist strap. What I'm going to be doing is I have my desktop computer underneath here, so I'm going to be grounding myself on it there. And one other thing I'm going to do is I have some disposable gloves. I've seen a lot of people who seem to open these up using these, so I hope I've got the right kind of material. These are just like disposable rubber gloves. I'm going to stick some of these on just in case. Don't want to like damage any of the components inside, especially not with the oiliness of my skin. I have cleaned the area around here before I did this, and of course I have washed my hands and I have dried them thoroughly, but they're still going to be going into these. I feel like a surgeon. Here we are. Right, so I got the iFixit kit here because it turns out I didn't have any P or T screws. I've actually got the guide right in front of me here. And to begin with, I'm going to need a P5 bit, so I'm just looking through here. Actually, having this ring light here is really useful. It makes it very easy to find things. There's a P5. So I've got my P5 screw bit here, and I'm going to, one by one, open up all the screws. Now, of course, it's always a good idea to have a special place to put them. I've got a little corner over here, and we're putting them all Normally with these MacBooks, when you take them apart, you take all the bits off and then you just lift the thing off. But it's already like poking off because of the pressure. So let's just fast forward through this bit while they take all the screws off. Note to self, these ones in the middle seem to be much, much longer, so I'm going to put them in a slightly different place to the other ones. Oh yeah, you can really see how the hinge is properly coming off now. Let's keep going. And here we are, the final screw, taking it off, and now here will come the back plate, which normally seems to have, yeah, it's a bit of filth on there, we'll be getting that off. Now look at this, God, that's not good, that's not good. Those ones are really puffing out. If I just move it so you can see how dreadful that looks. Okay, those will absolutely have to come out. Now I've seen a couple of videos of people saying that you can just pierce the hole in here and let the gas come out. One of those gases I believe is carbon monoxide, which is highly toxic, I might add. And apparently it can, like, if the battery's still holding charge, it can kind of live. At this point, the battery used to live, at this point it's no longer living, and I just absolutely would not recommend doing anything like that. That sounds like an awful, awful idea. This needs replacing. I've always been told you should never, ever, ever consider puncturing a battery. Especially not ones like this, especially not ones which are going to release toxic fumes into the atmosphere and into your lungs if you can smell them. If you can smell them, they're going in your lungs. This is a good thing about these Macs. If you plug in the power supply, you can turn it on, you can get everything off it like that. What we're going to be getting rid of this. Firstly, we're going to take some of my compressed air, we're going to give this a little clean. I'm just gently doing small bursts, make sure you never tip it upside down or anything, just to get rid of any horrible dust and stuff. And I've got like the fan here, because it's never good for a computer to have dust and stuff in it. Whenever you can, if you ever open up like a computer, you should always give it a good old clean. Before we even look at putting a new one in, let's take out the old batteries. I've got the guide right in front of me actually here, the iFixit guide. In fact, I will probably link that in the description below, because it's been very, very useful. Oh yes, I'm glad I was looking at that. It wants me to disconnect this bit first. Now I've seen from a Lewis Rossman video that you want to sort of not do this with metal if you can. I think I need a spudger, which is like a little plastic thing. Give me 1 second, let me go get my spudger. And here we have a spudger that I bought ages ago from a failed attempt to fix an iPhone 5. It took a trip through the washing machine, and surprisingly everything worked on it apart from the microphone. So I was able to buy a replacement microphone, put that in, and then didn't place the screen in properly, tried again and broke the screen. And I kind of gave up there. Very annoying. So how are they suggesting to do this? So it seems you're supposed to get your nail under it and just pull it upwards, it would seem. This is the bit I'm really worried about. Cocking up this bit, because you want to break the connector. Oh, it feels like it's moving. Yep. Oh, it's coming out. It's coming out. Hey! Disconnected it, and everything looks like it's still in place. Fantastic. Right. Next bit, on to actually removing the battery itself. Ooh, it's getting scary, I tell you. It's getting really tense now. Okay, so for this bit, apparently we need a load of different style of Torx screws. Let's just put my key screw. Actually, I'll leave that with the other ones. Right. Okay. We need some T5s, which seems to be this one here. Different size Torx. I'm not sure if the new battery will come with new screws, but I'm going to keep these old ones just in case. It looks like, if I just pull this out now, there's our battery. And oh yeah, a little bit of corrosion there. But look at how much this is expanded. This is dreadful. Let's put that down there. Looks like you've had a little bit of corrosion near where the touchpad is. Something I think is quite interesting is, it seems anyway, like if I were to open this back up, that it has, for the most part, there's a tiny bit of flex still, but for the most part, that's pretty much flattened out. That's looking good. That's looking good. Okay. Let's get back down. I'm going to get my air can again. I'm going to just spray away any residual stuff. Now I'm wondering if I should try to wipe away what looks like the corrosion here, or if that should just be just fine as is. Let's get the new battery. So I looked at a couple of different videos and I ended up getting a Sloda one, as they seem to just have the most battery time. They seem to last the longest, basically, at least from what I've read. I have no idea, this is my first time ever using them. And here we have the new battery, which looks much nicer, much flatter than the old battery. If I just place it there, that should all work quite well. What this has, it actually has some screws inside as well, which I'll put somewhere, but I've been using the ones from iFixit just because, well, I've bought the kit now, may as well use them. So now we have our brand new one, and hopefully this should go in no problem. The instruction seems to say put it right in, so I guess that's what I'll be doing. Let's just seems to just plop right in place. Yeah, I'm going to try and plug the battery in first, and then sort of seat the rest of the battery. So get it all lined up there, all in place, looking good, and just get it pushed in, get it pushed on. Place the battery down. All seems to be in place. Make sure that that's in. I really hope that's in. It seems to be in pretty much as far as it can go. I don't want to like overbend it or anything. Right, I hope that's in. Let's screw her in. I'm going to start with the centre screw here. And I'm going to have to disconnect this later when I open it up, like tomorrow or whenever the SSD comes, to plug the SSD in. This doesn't look like I'm going to have to do any sort of bending of like the keyboard or the aluminium to get it back into place. It all seems like it has actually just warped back into being the right shape. There we go. So that looks like it's in. Just make sure that's seated properly. I hope it is. One last square away the dust for good luck. And we'll really give this a clean as well. In fact, we'll pause it right here and I'm going to go away and give this a clean. And via the power of filmmaking, it's nice and clean now. Well, it's much cleaner than it was before at least. So let's just place it on. And look, oh yeah, it definitely feels like this bit has warped a bit more than with other bits. So we shall just screw it back in and hopefully it'll somewhat retake its shape-ish, I guess. Over time, I guess the weight of it might push it back into place. Right, okay, let's flip it over and if you have a look, it's closing much, much better now. Open her up, let's just have a quick feel. The trackpad still feels like it's a bit stiff, but everything else feels much, much flatter. So what I'm going to do, we're going to get our MacBook Air charger out, going to plug it in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it for about, because I know it'll turn on. Well, I hope it is. It did before I did this, so if I've broken it, then that's something new. I've plugged this in, it's switched on, should get a light of some variety. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this plugged in here for 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back in 10 minutes time and see how it's going. So if I just bring the charger where you can see it, we can now see, I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, that this orange light is on. This is the charging light, so it's now showing that something in there is actually being charged. Now that was only about 2 minutes ago that I did the last take, so we're going to give this another few minutes and then we're going to switch it on and see if it's indeed charging a battery or if it's just powering a batteryless, as it thought it was, MacBook Air. Okay, so here we are, and it's been on for about 10 minutes. So this is not just going to be a sense of if the new battery's working, this is also going to be a test of if I've managed to break the system by opening it up. Power on. Hey, that's a sound you like to hear. Okay, let's get it to boot into macOS. There we go, everything's nice and flat now. I'm going to give the keyboard a quick type test, I think, as well, just to like double check that everything's going quite well. So what I'll do is I'll pause here and we shall just quickly adjust the camera position. Here we are, and so we're booted into macOS, and which version is this? This is, it's one about this Mac. This is El Capitan version 10.11.6, so it's pretty behind. That was the last sort of major update it had before things started going wrong with it, and if you can see, I'm not quite sure if you can or not, we have 72% and charging, which it wasn't showing before. It was actually coming up saying it had absolutely no battery at all. So actually if I go into like system report, let's have a look at what it says about the new battery. And there we go. It recognises that we do indeed have a battery, whereas I promised you before it was saying, nope, no battery here. So yeah, it's definitely working on there now. Okay, let's open Word and have a quick type test. So here we are now into Microsoft Office, and let's just do a quick type test of just all the keys, nothing particularly interesting, just double checking that they are all working no problem at all. And the mouse pad is feeling, see, the clicks feel stiff, but the right click immediately works, which was a big problem before where it just wasn't working. So hey, looking pretty good. Okay, so all I'm going to be doing for the rest of today is I've got a external hard drive here, and I'm going to just be double checking that I have backed up everything from this SSD. If not, I'll be doing a big backup of it onto this now. And after that, I'm just going to let the battery charge up to 100%, and then tomorrow, fingers crossed, if the SSD and the adapter arrives, we'll be swapping out the SSDs and installing Linux on it. Now we're still on the first day of doing this here, and as you can see there's 3% battery and it says low battery or Mac is going to go to sleep soon unless you're plugged into a power outlet. No need to panic there, as what I'm actually doing is I'm following iFixit's guide on how to calibrate the battery. So what it says to do here is it says to charge up to 100% and keep it charging for at least 2 more hours afterwards, which I've already done. And then it says to unplug your laptop and use it normally to drain the battery. And so I've been making like backups of all the files and everything that's on here, and a lot of it's now backed up onto my fiance's laptop. And so now it's ready for me to like change the SSD when that all arrives. So I've been doing that, just using it for sort of like normal work. And then it says, keep the laptop on until it goes to sleep due to low battery. As the warning you saw there before says, it's going to go to sleep soon unless it's plugged into a power outlet. And then it says, wait at least 5 hours, then charge your laptop back up to 100% uninterrupted. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wait until the laptop goes to sleep, and then I'm going to spend the rest of this evening cleaning the laptop. And there we go. It never actually even got to 1%, it was just on 2% for a while and then went to sleep, and it's definitely off now. I'm not going to bother pressing the power button. I think it's time to let it sleep for a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a good old clean. As it's not really been used for a while, it's sort of accumulated a little bit of muck. So, not going to be the most orthodox way of cleaning it, but hey, we've got some multi-surface spray here, so we're just going to... There we go, and that's all lovely and clean now. And so now we just await the SSDs arriving, hopefully tomorrow, or if not the day after. And so here we are in what we're going to be calling day 2, even though really this is about 3 or 4 days later. And that's because I was waiting for a couple of things to arrive. Specifically, we have the new SSD. What I have here is I have a 500GB solid-state SSD. It's M.2, but it's not NVMe. This is mSATA instead, as this is the kind of SSD that we actually need for the MacBook Air. As far as I'm aware, a NVMe, which is actually a lot quicker because I think it can use the full speed of a PCI Express slot, or close to it anyway, much closer than SATA can. That is not compatible, but mSATA is, so even though this is an M.2 format, so one of the sticks rather than being like a normal SSD shape, it's not going to get anywhere near those speeds. This is going to be SATA speeds, but the top end of the SATA speeds where the SSDs tend to live. But as this was made both by Apple, so it's going to have awkward proprietary nonsense, but as well as that, it was made before sort of drives like this were really popular, I've also had to order an adapter for it. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be hopefully finishing it off. And what I also have here is a USB stick with Ubuntu, which is the Linux distribution of Ubuntu with the XFC desktop environment ready to be installed. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to flip it over, and using my screw set, I'm going to unscrew it like I did before. So now all of our screws are off, and it's actually not as easy to get it off this time, as the body has warped back into its original shape. So I'm just going to use the spudger here, just lift the case gently off, exposing all the innards and the motherboard. Just going to give it one good blow with the compressed air, just to make sure any stuff like that, any mist, hair, or dust can be removed. Because hopefully when we close this again, it'll be the last time we'll be opening this for a very, very long time. Now, something we do want to do before we go any further, and before I get out the new SSD, is actually to disconnect the battery again. Because this has been charged, like I said, I'd calibrated it before. I don't want there to be any chance of anything being shorted. And I know I'm wearing like gloves and everything, and I've got my anti-static strap, but you know, you don't want to short things, basically. I don't want to brick what I'm doing. So there we go, and that was much easier with this battery, and so now it's disconnected. Everything should be good to go. Now, just before I remove the old SSD, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set myself up with the new SSD. I'm always amazed at how small these drives are. It's another thing for you to see just why we need an adapter. There's the drive, and if I just place that near the other one, you can see the other one is significantly larger. So that's why we have this adapter here. Also, something that did seem a bit confusing. You see with these ones, you've got the 2 notches there. I think one's an M and one's an X. I forget which one's which, or M and S or something. and it looks like there's just one notch here, but apparently these are the right ones. If it's an NVMe, the notch will be on the other side. Plugging this in here, and they always go in slightly diagonally like that. And we've got the bit at the right size, although it can be adjusted for different sizes. I'm going to be pushing it down, and then I'm going to get the screws and tighten that on. I'm going to put the screw in like that, and then my screwdriver, just going to tighten it down. So it's just nice and comfortable. Just double checking that that's seated nicely in there. All seems to be good, so we've got that, it's good to go. Now, I've seen a lot of videos of people putting these in and they all seem to fit, although I always thought that like the extra height would make it so it wouldn't fit, but apparently it does. So with that they're ready to go, we're going to change the tip on our screwdriver here from a P5 to a T5, and this is what we're going to use for the screw that's located right here on the already installed SSD. There we go, putting that to one side for safety. Now, as you've noticed, unlike with the M.2 drive, this one isn't immediately coming up, so we need to just pull it up a little bit. Once again, I'm not going to use anything metal because that would be a bad idea, just lifting it slightly with my plastic spudger. I need to grab it and just flex it, just left to right, left to right, left to right, nice and gentle. There we go, and it's out. So just for an example, there's the SSD for the Mac, and there's what we're replacing it with. You can see the size difference there. So we're going to be keeping this because it has a load of data on it. And now we're going to be plugging this one in. Now same way, it's not going to go in diagonally. It's just going to go in sideways like this and make sure it's all seated properly. So once again, not overly forcing, just left, right, left, right, left, right, or it goes in much easier than the original one came out. Getting my screw. I'm going to screw it back in. There we go. SSD replaced. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to reconnect the battery and I'm going to put the case back on. So I'll see you once that's done. Now here we are, and I've got the laptop all ready. I've got the power supply plugged in and turned on just as we're about to install a new operating system. I've got the USB stick with Linux ready to be installed here. But something I've gotten from a video from a channel called Tech Tropics is to reset the NVRAM, I think it was called. In which case, what I need to do is I need to turn it on and then hold Option, Command, R and P. And apparently that should reset something in the system which should help with, changing SSD. And I think it's probably a good idea for me to do that, seeing as I'm not only swapping SSD, but I'm in fact going to be installing a completely different operating system. So here we go. So I'm going to be holding Command, Option, P and R. Here we go. On, Command, Option, P, R, hold. So I'm going to be holding those down. And the screen will kind of, because like nothing's really coming up, and then it should do the sound again. The sound, there we go. Let's see what we get. I've changed hard drives I've changed SSDs in Macs before, but I've never actually had a chance to install a different operating system on it, so I'm quite excited to be doing this. So I've turned it off, and now I'm going to press on again, and then I'm going to be holding Option, or Alt, same button really. So holding that down, then we should actually get the option to boot from this USB stick. There we go, and it says EFI boot. Let's just boot into it. And yeah, it's basically the same thing. So let's go into Ubuntu. I'm going to hit enter and let's see where it goes from here. I feel like this is turning into a Dragra 1 video, although hopefully I'll be a little bit more successful than he tends to be. Hey, that's looking good. Right, so I'll cut it there and we'll return when we actually get to the installation screen. This is the installation screen for Ubuntu. So I'm just going to quickly blast through this. This should be basically the same as an installation of any other sort of GTK-based version of Ubuntu. So just as I was making a joke about not wanting this to turn into a Dragra 1 style video, all the installation went wrong. So this bit I'm filming here is actually 2 days after the previous bit where I was trying to install it for the first time. It is all now installed, so I've got Ubuntu 20.10, everything's installed, everything's set up, it's good to go. But I had some big issues, and these, as far as I can tell, were caused by one particular factor, and that was NVIDIA.
So NVIDIA, fuck you.
Now, if you're not too aware, NVIDIA are not known for being super friendly with Linux, and in particular, their drivers are seen as not being as good as the Intel or the AMD drivers when it comes to graphics. Right, sorry for the quite startling jump cut I've got here, but as you may or may not have been realising, sort of towards the end of the video as you've watched it so far, there ends up being a load of graphical glitches in the video. I'm afraid this is all down to my video editor, Kdenlive, which I'd actually completely edited and made the whole of this video no problem, and then it rendered and it completely corrupted the file. All the backups are corrupted. The whole video is basically ruined. So at this point, I've cut the video right where that happened, and we're going to carry on at this point in time. And this kind of brings up something else. This video has almost been like a year in the making. I actually bought the parts and put this all together right early in the year. I think it was around about February. And then I actually, I had 2 other videos to do. So I actually ended up editing and then making this video about a month or 2 ago at this point. It's currently December. So it's taken me like the whole year to do this. And in fact, I was gonna do this video, I was gonna add on to the video doing this bit recently, but I've had even more problems with the MacBook. So, long story short, if I just bring it up here, we have the laptop. As you can see, it's now got Linux Mint on it, so it's a little bit different there, but we're gonna carry on from where we left off. So, when I left the video off before, I was talking about the problems with NVIDIA. And this had actually been a problem not only on the MacBook, but actually a problem I later experienced on my main desktop PC. And this was indeed an issue with NVIDIA, specifically the NVIDIA driver. So I had used a NVIDIA driver from the proprietary driver PPA, which you can attach to an install of Ubuntu to get like different drivers and stuff, or different packages. But this was causing problems on both the computers where if with enough inactivity on the screen, it would just lock. Interesting enough, I could still move the cursor around, but I could interact with nothing. If a download was happening, I could still see the timer going down, but I just could not interact with the screen, oddly enough, other than moving the cursor. For both solutions, for both the main desktop PC and for the MacBook, getting rid of the PPA certainly helped. For the desktop PC, I went to the proprietary NVIDIA driver that just came with Ubuntu at the time. However, even through just using Ubuntu, and now even having yesterday installed Linux Mint on this laptop, it only likes the open source Nouveau driver, which is a bit notorious for being a bit naff. However, it works significantly better on this laptop than the proprietary driver does. It even runs games better when it chooses to run the games. So with that first run of installing Ubuntu, I ended up having to install an older version of Ubuntu and upgrade it from there. And it even survived another upgrading until very recently where, for whatever reason, whenever I booted it, it would give me a kernel panic. I couldn't get it to just boot into Grub right away, which I thought to myself, well, I'll go into Grub and then load an early version of the kernel and then, fix it from there, but never worked. So I gave up at that point and have now installed Linux Mint onto the computer instead. So let's actually have a quick look at the computer. Here we go, and I've turned the ring light off, and so now you can see I have XFCE on here, but it's set up a little bit differently to my desktop. As you can see in this video here, I have my desktop set up. I have one panel down the side here, and I have the little date and the time at the bottom there, and you've got a little screen fetch here showing that it is indeed running Linux Mint, and Ubuntu ran pretty well on this, but I feel almost that Linux Mint seems to be running a little bit snappier. I was in 2 minds actually as to which operating system I was going to go with, as on another really old laptop I have, I've been making it run Debian, and actually running Debian really, really well. So I was going to go with either Debian or Linux Mint, but I thought with this one, as I intend to use it a little bit more, and more like outside, I'd like something a little bit, even though Debian's incredibly stable, it really, really is stable, because that old other computers doesn't handle much, but Debian it can run really well. I thought I would still want something that's going to be running stuff that's a little bit more up to date. So I've gone for Linux Mint XFCE here. And so that leaves the final modification I made to the laptop. And it's a small one, but it's one I thought I'd make anyway. And that is that I ordered a black Ubuntu sticker. The orange logo for Ubuntu looks quite nice, but I really found a black one, which I think looks really quite sleek. And I've put it over the Apple logo. For 2 reasons. One is I thought it looked quite cool to have an Ubuntu sticker, even though now I have Linux Mint, but hey, it's the Ubuntu version of Linux Mint, so I guess it still counts, really. But the other reason was something a little bit more serious, and that was, I do intend to use this laptop out and about. And when you have a computer with a logo like this, with such heavy branding on it, you are almost giving a level of advertising towards the company. However, even though I've been happy to receive this laptop for free and to fix it up myself and to put my own software on it, I really, really dislike Apple and don't want to give them any sort of support for a particular reason. There's many, many reasons to dislike the company, like its appalling track record towards things like right to repair, but specifically their track record for having used Uyghur Muslims in these slave labour concentration camps in China, which the Chinese Communist Party allows to happen and are in charge of. Apple aren't the only company that do that, but they are a company who are quite well known for having done it. And for legal reasons, this is all in my opinion. However, there are articles here that I'm flashing up on the screen right now which have given you a clue as to why I have this opinion. But for that very reason, I have chosen to put a sticker over it instead, so that really there's no advertising for a company that I think, to be honest, are completely and utterly disgusting. And so that's all we've got for this year. I should really be saying Merry Christmas or a Happy Hanukkah if that's what you'd prefer, as it's now December, even though I started recording this, like I said, at the start of the year. But here's hoping that 2022 will be a little bit better than 2021, and 2020 certainly. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.